fabric. So I'm going to be using this Ankara fabric and some lining, white lining to go with it, because the background is white. You can use black and any type of lining you want to use. So I'm going to be using the white lining. And don't forget that you're also going to need interfacing. If you want to pad the front or the bust area of the blouse, you can go ahead to use pad or wadding for that section. If you want to know how to pad your blouse, you can check out my YouTube video already below this video to know how to add pads to your bodice. And then if you don't want to pad it, you can use interfacing as well. What else can you use? And don't also forget, we are going to be including either fish line or crinoline to the bottom of the flare. Okay, so I'm basically just going to work with this fabric. There's more of it over there, but let me just start with this. So this is my fabric of choice. So I'm going to fold it into equal half. I'm going to start with the front. So I'm going to fold my fabric. Make sure your wrong side is facing down, the right side is up, and then we'll fold. Remember, our pattern is one piece each. So I'm going to fold, and then I'll get my front piece. At this point, you will also need your pin and cushion. So I'm going to place my front piece on the folded side. Now remember, I mentioned that we are going to include zip allowance. I usually don't bother to add it to my pattern since I already know that's what I want to do. But if I'm drafting patterns electronically, I often include it in my pattern as I'm also including seam allowances. Then I also indicate to the user of the pattern about the amount of zip allowance I have included. But since this is just for me, I can work however I want. Alright, so I usually leave 1 inch zip allowance in my center front. So I'm going to measure. Let's be sure we have 1 inch here. Yeah, this is absolutely 1 inch. So I'm going to pin it down. These pins are too small. I hate using small pins. So let me go for the big ones. Then I'm just going to cut. Now, when I drafted my pattern, I didn't include any seam allowance. So if you had included seam allowances in your blouse pattern, then you might want to leave that seam. But when I usually do I do not include seam allowance. I only do that when I'm cutting for my fabric. So I'm going to add seam allowance around the neck, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, all sizes at the bottom, but then at the center front I'm going to leave my 1 inch for zip allowance. Okay, so now that I've done that, you can see my notch here that I've included on the pattern. So I'm going to create that notch on the fabric. It's very important. Right, and then I'm going to create a notch at the top and at the bottom of my fabric to indicate that's where the zip allowance begins. So we have that, and if you have your tailor's chalk nearby, you can also roll a straight line, to indicate. So I'm going to put this aside, and then I'll go to the side pieces. and I also have lining for each fabric. So there are actually two ways you can go about attaching your lining to your fabric. You can attach directly while attaching the sides. Like, you can place the lining. Okay, so let's assume that this is the lining for this piece. Okay, so you can actually sew it directly, but the only problem here is that we want to attach a crinoline or fish line to the hem of our blouse. So, and I want a situation where the crinoline does not show at the wrong side. So what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be attaching each piece of the fabric first, and then I'll attach the lining later. So that's what I intend to do, so that we can have that professional finish that we should all be able to do. Alright, so I'm going to start with the center front piece. You can see at the one side I've attached padding or wadding to the bust area, and then interfacing at the bottom, because the fabric is very light and very lightweighted, so attached interfacing at the bottom. You can choose to do that. My interfacing is a light one. You can use a medium weight interfacing to the bottom of your hem. Alright, so I'll just go on to start attaching each pieces to it. So we'll start with the bust piece. You can see our notches here. It signifies that we have to place it directly here, and we're going to need our pin to help us achieve this. So pin. done joining all the pieces. This is the lining. I've joined all the sides of the lining. So this is the back. I've also joined the main fabric. You can see I've joined the sides, and I've also taken the liberty to top stitch the seams as well to the on the right side, because if you look at the design, that's what we have. This is the back, then this is the front. I've also done the same with the front. You can see my pad. I've also done the top stitch around it as well. This is the other side of the front piece. So I did the same as well to the lining fabric. So the next thing we want to do is, I'm going to put my front aside for a bit and focus on the back piece. So basically what I want to do is to join the center back of my fabric. I'm going to do it for the fabric and the lining as well. Okay, so I'm going to join the center back for the back piece. I'll do the same for the lining, and then I'll show you what next to do. Okay, so you can see that I'm done with my joining my back pieces. I've joined the center front of my back. I've also done the same for the lining fabric. So what we want to do next is to attach our front and back pieces both on our fabric and also on our lining. So basically I'm going to place my fabric right side up. This is the front my back piece, and I'm going to align the sides as well as the shoulders. Okay, I'm also going to do the same for the other side. Align side. Okay, so basically we want to join the sides. Now remember that we left about 1 inch seam allowance at the side, so that's how much we're going to leave behind. So let me get my pin and just pin this up. Let's see how it looks at the top. And this is okay at the front. Let's see, side, pin, down. Okay, so I'm going to get my pin to hold the sides. Okay, so you can see I've attached the sides and the shoulders. I've done all of that. I've also joined the lining. So the next thing we want to do is to attach our crinoline and lining to the hem of our fabric. That's basically what we want to do now. So I think I'm going to adjust this a bit. Between the fabric and the lining. So I have a black crinoline with me. This one has been a little bit stretched. I don't know what happened to it, but I'm still going to use it like that. Okay, so I'm going to place it right here. I'm going to get my pin to hold it in place. I'm also going to place my fabric. So the fabric should be right side up and the lining should be wrong side up. So when you place it, the lining and the fabric will be like so. So crinoline will be on the lining like this. Okay. So I'm going to hold it down to extend this a bit. So the whole point is to try not to stretch it. Mine is already stretched out. I think my kids may have tampered with it. Okay, so I'm just gonna hold it in place. And the hem. I need to attach the zipper. I've been trying to deliberate which color of zipper I'm going to use. I was trying to think, oh, should I use white zipper? Should I use red? I honestly, till now, I still can't make a decision about that. So I eventually decided I'll go for the white. The reason is because the red zipper that I have, the Earth's Blood red, isn't long enough for the blouse, so it just makes sense to actually go with the white. So I'm going to fold my zip allowance. Now I no longer have 1 inch. I think this is about 0.5 or so. So I'm going to fold my zip allowance, that's 0.5 inch, best that I can. And I'm going to attach my zipper to it. And when I'm done, I'll show you what next to the blouse. Okay, so this is how it's up. Yeah, it's quite long, but I'm going to leave it there until I'm able to put the color. So now we want to cut the color. I usually do not bother to do any pattern drafting on color because I have like a simplified method that I use in creating color, so it works for me and saves time. So a color is usually like the last thing you do when you are sewing a shirt or anything. So going through the process of drafting again, I usually don't bother about that. So I first always like to sew my blouse or shirts first, and then I'll just go on to cut the color. So now this is a piece of my fabric, and I've folded it, you know, to the wrong side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold my fabric, and this part is the center back. So I'm going to place this at the end here of my fabric, that's the folded end, and I'm going to place the rest of my neckline on the fabric like this, right, like this. I fold it like this on the fabric, and I'm going to trace. Fortunately, I only have white chalk, so it's usually hard to use white chalk on a white fabric, but I'm going to just manage. So I'm going to trace it. Add the pencil now, maybe that will have worked better. Okay, so I know you can't see it, so I'm just going to use something to illustrate what I have done, like this. See, so this, I've created a curve. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to curve right like this up 1 inch. You can see that, right? Okay, and then I'm going to curve again, because what we are trying to do is a collar stand, not necessarily collar. We usually use collar stands for just bishop collars. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. So the difference here is literally 1 inch. So I'm going to put it back and test to see if what I've done is accurate. It's my zipper. Yes. think that's great. Alright, so I've been able to measure out the color. I don't know if you can see it because I'm using a white chalk. Alright, so now I need 2 pieces of this, so I'm going to cut this out. Now I'm not going to cut exactly where I've marked. I'm going to cut 0.5 inches round where I've marked because I'm going to be joining the 2 pieces together. The 2 pieces of the color stand together, so I need seam allowances to do that. So like 0.5 inches round. So we're going to include interfacing to the wrong side of any of the fabric. You can do on both sides if you want your fabric, your color to be very stiff. So this is interfacing here. So I'm going to place one of the fabric wrong side down, right side up on the, this is the shining part of the interfacing. So I'm going to place it here, and then I'm going to place the other one, okay, the other one wrong side up on the fabric like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch round like this on the fabric. So when I'm done, I'm going to show you what next happens. So I'm done stitching around the color. So I'm going to like cut off or nip off this end so that when I turn it, I can have that curve perfect, as you can see. So now I'm going to turn this over to the right side. There is no electricity, so I would suggest that you actually press iron when you're done, so you can have like a neat finish. Currently don't have electricity right now, that's why I'm unable to do mine. So you can go on to top stitch round the color, and then I'll show you what next to do. So you can see our color. The next thing we're going to do is to attach it around the neck of our blouse. Okay, so this is what I usually do when I'm sewing shirts or collars on shirts. It's the same procedure I usually use. I pick the side that I like the most and I use that to be so that is what I think I like, but it doesn't really matter. So you can see where we have nailed at the center back. So what I do is that I separate one piece like this with the interfacing, and I place it on the center back like so, okay, and then I sew and then I want to make sure it gets to that side and sew. So I'm going to sew it around the neck at the right side of the fabric, and then I'll show you what next to do. You can see that I'm done stitching the parts of the collar with the interfacing to the wrong side of the fabric. Now this is our wrong side as inside of the jacket, so we are left with this part of the collar. So this is what I usually do. What I do is that I'll fold it over like this. You see the seam that I have created at the neck? I'll place it inside and place the inside, this collar piece left. I'll fold it over the seam like this. That's what I usually do when I'm sewing colors. I don't know how others do theirs, but this works for me every time. It creates a neat finish for my garments, which I love so much. So you can see the seams are hidden, even the rest part of the bodice or blouse, the seams are hidden. That's the same way I'm doing with the collar. So I'm going to fold it over the seam, and then I'll stitch. Then we'll I'll show you the next thing to do. So you can see that I'm done attaching the color to the bodice around the neck, and this is how it looks. Although I had to adjust the color while I was sewing, I had to make here more curvy so that it will match into the zip. Initially it was like this, so I had to just slash and adjust it a bit so that it could like curve down with the zip. So the next thing we want to do is to attach our sleeve. Okay, so this is our sleeve. It's just a basic sleeve, just a regular sleeve. There's nothing extraordinary about the sleeve. So what we just need to do is just fold here once, and then again, and then we'll stitch. Then after that, we'll fold the sleeve into equal halves, and then we'll stitch to get to the end, and then for the other sleeve as well, we'll stitch until we get to the end, and then we'll attach it to the armhole of our blouse. Okay, hi guys, so this is the blouse. This is how it looks. So you can see the back, right? Okay, so this is the sleeve. In fact, it was by the time I was done that I realized that I'd made a jacket. It's so beautiful. It looks like a jacket. It literally go with anything red. So I just had to put in a blouse, or rather it's down inside, and I wore it, and it looks great. Yeah. So I think it did great. And the color, although my color is slightly different from hers, mine looks like a bomber jacket kind of color. So you can make this or make hers, get the sleeve here. So everything worked out well.